When we see realtors online, they're talking about the interest rates, the market, their listings, but no one really discusses the business. No one discusses the life of a real estate agent. I remember when I first got into the business, someone said, no one understands what you're going through as a realtor unless it's another realtor. My guest today is Regina Dutt. She has been a realtor for 36 years. I know, she probably started when she was like 2 years old. You look absolutely amazing, by the way. I know you're busy and your time is very valuable, so thank you so much for being here. I met Regina 15 years ago when I first got into the business, and she has always been so kind, so helpful, so knowledgeable. And this is why I am so excited to have her here today. Welcome, Regina Dutt, to the Wealthy Acre. I'm so excited to have you on our podcast, and I want to hear about your story. How did you get started in the business 36 years ago? I mean, that was what, 1989?
Thank you, Deanna, for having me on with you today. So my story, very simply, I started as a part-time reception many years ago while I was in school at UBC trying to become a CGA at the time. And I got a part-time job as a Saturday receptionist and started to see the knowledge and the wealth of real estate. It was amazing. So as that was going on, I started to shift gears and started getting more interested in real estate. Stopped working as becoming a CGA and decided to turn to real estate.
But when you were doing your real estate course, you were still, when you were doing your real estate, was it the course or were you already working as a realtor? And because you were going to school at the same time, right?
Right. So I switched gears. I continued working at the real estate office. I worked as a receptionist and then decided to start taking urban land economics with the interest of real estate. So I've carried on with that while I worked part-time at the office, completed that, and then decided to further my studies and become a realtor. Moved up from the receptionist position to a conveyancer and continued to work in office and became a realtor.
When you started your career, you were a mom. You had young children. How did you manage your work-life balance, working, going to school, and all these different things? Like, how did you do that?
I was, when I first got my license, I didn't have any kids. After I finished my real estate course, I then got married, and I actually got my results from my course a couple of weeks before I got engaged. And then we got married, and I was licensed, and I got pregnant a couple of months after I got married. So getting into real estate at the same time having a baby, very difficult to manage. But I started at working as a realtor and having a lot of difficulty trying to manage those two hats. So it was difficult.
So having the small children at home, having your husband, I'm assuming he was a big part of that, because I know being in real estate, you're so busy. People are so demanding of your time. You had these small kids, they had to go to school, they had sports activities, all these different things. How did that come about? How did you?
Family is huge, right? I had the support of my parents, my sisters, and of course my husband, and that really helped. And when you first start in real estate, and this might be something that a lot of people don't realize, is that we're actually coming through the gates after getting your license. You're still not experienced, or the everyday tasks of running your business. It really just comes up as a surprise to you on how the whole operation works. So it's learning curve, and having a young baby, it wasn't easy, but I couldn't have done it without the support of my family. So it definitely made a big, huge difference to have that.
Absolutely. And you touched on that, exactly that, because when we do our course, when we pass our exam, and that's hard in itself, and then nobody really, it doesn't really prepare you for doing the job, doing the business, running and having everything run smoothly. And yet you had your kids, your home life, your family home life, and your friends and all these different things. So juggling that is definitely not an easy task. Now, big question here. What is the biggest sacrifice you had to make in order to be such a successful realtor that you are now?
I have to say that was time with my young children. I lost out a lot of time with them, and if I could go back, I would do it differently. But that was my biggest challenge.
A lot of firsts, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's always hard, and they grow up so fast. And how do you value your time now? What do you prioritize? How do you prioritize your clients, your personal life, and all these different things?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head by saying that is you really have to have a good schedule of time management and what you are going to dedicate to your business, then your family, and then your personal time and your mental health as well.
Yeah. How do you balance being competitive in the market, yet having respect and friendships amongst the colleagues and the other realtors?
Well, I think personality has a lot to do with it. I'm a people person. So when I go out there, I treat my clients, my colleagues, and my family all as my friends first.
I noticed that about you, and you've always been so kind and personable. And even as a colleague, when we worked together in the same office, you were very much honest and open and helpful as well, being a
Mhm.
new realtor in that office. So I've always really appreciated that. And I'm sure that helps huge to build those relationships with other realtors as well.
Absolutely. And like you said, the realtors, my colleagues, my clients as well, I consider them all my friends.
That's awesome. Have you ever thought of leaving the business? Is grass greener on the other side? And what stopped you? I mean, after 36 years, that's a long time. You've probably had those thoughts.
Absolutely. But I do love my job very much. I had thoughts of leaving and doing something fun. You know, it was always a dream to be a waitress. You're going to laugh about that one, but I've always wanted to be a waitress and serve people. Talking about grass is greener on the other side, I always come back to loving my job and loving being around people and connecting with people. So that's so important to me.
So that's what kept you grounded and kept you in the business, even though it's hard. You get so pulled in all these different directions, and it can't be easy to keep going. And the hours that you put in, and what kept you grounded and just keep coming back to staying in real estate.
The passion of it, I believe, is one of the top things. And the relationships, you know, it's even if you sometimes feel that you're having a bad day or a bad week, all of a sudden you'll get that call of somebody on the other end that really loves having you as their realtor, as a friend, as a colleague. And it just brings you right back to enjoying the business.
And the trust that they put into you.
Absolutely.
There have to be an immense amount of trust because your business is so much by referral, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's these people saying, "Okay, I trust her and I love you and I want you the best for you, so this is the best realtor for you." So that is such a huge compliment for sure.
Referrals are my biggest thing. Definitely when people come back full circle to give you that phone call and say, you know what, it's time to do something, or I have a friend or a family member. I love those phone calls,
That's the best compliment. I know it's the
right?
best compliment I ever
I'm
get.
sure, I'm sure you feel the same way.
I do, I do. And now if you weren't a realtor, what would you do?
Yes, I definitely would I enjoy every moment, every moment that I have with my kids, even now that they're all grown up. And the biggest joy in my life is being a mom. So I could be a full-time mom anytime.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Now, Regina, as long as I've known you, you've always worked with a real estate partner. Now, what are some of the pros and cons in working with a partner?
Yeah, I've always worked with a partner and I've enjoyed it. The pros being that basically your clients are getting two realtors for the price of one is the best way to explain it. So there's always somebody available for a phone call or a personal showing. And if you have a vacation that you want to take, or personal time, things, we all have personal things going on as well. So definitely that really is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, absolutely. And what are some of the negatives of having a partner?
So you have to mirror each other pretty good. So sometimes, I mean, no two people are exactly alike. So you have to work with each other's personality. You may not always agree on everything, but you find a happy medium. So that would be like a little bit of a con sometimes to come to that adjustment.
And it does take time to adjust because then there's the time obligation for each person and figuring out the rhythm and who your clients click with may be better. So having the two realtors for the price of one is amazing, but I feel like it would take some time to adjust. Is that kind of right?
Correct, correct. And the con being like the positive, like you're getting two realtors for the price of one, but not both personalities are not the same. So, you're taking the risk of the clients adjusting to two different personalities as well.
That totally makes sense. A big topic as a female realtor. Let's talk about safety. I know in 2008 there was an incident with a realtor on the island. There's always stuff that we hear about. Have you had an experience where you felt unsafe, and what have you done to kind of help that? And moving forward, what would you suggest for female realtors and in general, just all realtors? I mean, safety is a big
Hmm.
issue.
I had a bad experience in my early days. I'll just touch on it like very briefly. So that was a scary incident, and it caused me to be extra cautious. Hence, also deciding moving forward to have a partner to work with. And I've always had male partners as well. Safety is something huge for women. I feel that even going to a showing, you need to screen your clients at length, a telephone conversation, asking some very pre-qualifying questions to your potential buyer before you decide to commit to just meeting them at the property, especially vacant properties, walking into a home, being cautious on how you enter that front door, maybe having them enter first before you decide to, follow them in. Don't be the first one entering the home. There's a list of things. There's a lot of things that you have to keep in your back pocket. If you are going to a vacant home, go to the property with a fellow realtor or a family member, even, waiting for
Yeah.
you in the car. So for women, I'm not saying just women, but generally speaking, women have to take that extra caution.
Absolutely. And tell us about your story. I know there is something there. Let's touch on that because it is important for us to know. It was early in your career.
Yes, I was probably into my career about 3, 4 years. There was a lot of advertising in newspapers at that time, Real Estate Weekly, and I had a gentleman that was stalking me, cutting out all my ads and keeping them. And then he started to follow me without me being aware of. Obviously, I was not aware. And then started the phone calls, calling me and making rude remarks and telling me that he's been watching me and whatnot. He was caught for breaking and entering, and while he was detained, I was able to, through one of the sergeants at Vancouver Police Department, get a copy of his picture, who's kind enough to provide the picture. And so then we were totally aware of who the gentleman was. We did have a file on him, and we were able to see visually what he looked like. Nothing ever happened moving forward. I've never used my married name in my business. I've always used my maiden name, never changed it, keeping my married life private and not being able to be traced as easy.
We're so easily to be found as realtors.
Yes,
Like, I mean, we can't be a secret. We are out in the
exactly.
public eye. We're easily to be found. Our phone numbers, our contact information is in the public, especially now with the internet. So it's
That's
even
right.
more important to be that much more cautious. My assistant, my husband always knows where I am. It's all in my schedule. Because again, we're just doing those extra precautions. I do my best not to do showings on my own, just like yourself, especially at night or vacant homes
Yes.
or anything like that. Like it's extremely important to do that and take care of our safety. And because again, you didn't even know what this person looked like.
No. And
And
he
you
had all
mentioned
my information. He had everything on me, but I knew nothing about him.
that's so frightening because you
Hmm.
don't know who this person is and what they're capable of. And stalking, like you couldn't just arrest him for stalking, right? Like how does that work?
So let me touch on that a little bit. So unfortunately, I could not do anything until I couldn't even get a restraining order because he hadn't done anything to me yet.
So
So
stalking is
until
not a crime.
no, no,
That's serious.
it was a rough. And again, I had a lot of family support and a lot of office support. My managers and my colleagues, and so everybody was aware of it, and that really did make a difference. And so the support system is so important with the type of work we do.
Amazing. Yeah, I would have my husband come with me to my open houses at one point. just
Yeah.
because you just can't be too careful. So I'm glad everything worked out and you're okay and that person's out of your life a long time ago. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
As realtors, we wake up unemployed every single day. And every single day we go out, look for new business. And what keeps you motivated during those downtimes, during the times where deals fall apart, that maybe there's not a lot of business happening? What keeps you motivated to move forward?
I think we schedules and systems are so important so that we wake up the next day, even if it's a horrible day, even if we have had a couple of deals collapse, you know that you have systems in place. I'm still an old school when it comes to this. I actually just converted back to using a day timer where I'm looking at my week at a glance all the time, knowing what tomorrow holds. As difficult as it is sometimes, you know what? We just get up and just go, so self-motivated, I believe.
You have to be, as a realtor, I think as a professional, you have to be self-motivated. You don't have anybody there hounding you. Have you done this? Have you done that? Did you follow up? Did you make the calls? You don't have anybody doing that. So it's really just yourself getting up every day and saying, okay, what do I need to do to keep going, to love what I do? And I guess having amazing clients really helps, right?
It sure does. And like you said, is we have to love, we really do have to love what we do day in and day out. We're all going to have down days. We're only human, but we just got to get up and jump right back in.
Rinse, lather, and repeat. Now, how do you manage with the highs and lows, emotions, and very difficult clients? How do you manage that?
Not everybody's personalities are going to match, and we know that. There's going to be certain people that they're not going to like me, and I may not like them. And that's okay. So here we are. We're sitting down and we have an appointment and we get through it, and it's not going to work out. They just say, no, you're not the right person for the job. You have to accept that and just move on. It's okay. It's not wrong, or it's not that you did something wrong. It just didn't work out. So you may say to them, absolutely move on and find the right person that's going to fit your needs.
So it's not taking it personally. Is that what
You
I'm
can't
hearing?
Absolutely. You can't take it personally, and you can't let that bring you down. You just have to think of it as it's going to be their choice at the end of the day. You did the best you can. You walked in there shiny and clean and presented yourself the best you can. And you know your job, you know what you're doing. If it's not fitting for them, it's okay.
And I guess for me, it's having that support at home too. Do you feel that?
The same. Yes,
Like if you're
absolutely.
having a really emotional day or a very difficult client. And again, there's just people are going to be people and there's going to be those difficult clients. And it's coming home to a safe place and a safe environment with support.
Absolutely. And I have that with my husband. I mean, I don't even think I would have lasted in this business as long as I did if it wasn't for him. So family support is huge.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I can attest to that.
Speaking of which, how do you manage your personal life, your client relationships? Is there a conflict sometimes when your family members, friends become clients or they don't become clients? How does that work? How does that conflict work for you?
I block out personal time in my day timer again. I block out that me and my husband are going to go out on a date. It's really important. And if that time is booked, I don't rebook. It's already booked. And if a
It's an
client
appointment.
needs me at the time, it's an appointment. And in the same breath, we kind of have a couple of different areas here. If you're working with somebody that's a family member and that's not working out, they're feeling that there's a conflict here, you have to, again, accept that very kindly. I think what ends up happening sometimes is as much as they trust, they see that you're doing well and they really care for you, but there's that whole confidentiality part that has a play. Maybe they don't want to disclose certain things or they're not comfortable with all areas of conversation, and that's okay too. You have to respect them. You might want to refer them out to somebody. Maybe not try to be in control so much, and you just have to let it go. And we all have lots of friends that are in the business, or even if it's not within our same office, we might want to say, you know what, can I refer you out to somebody from another office? Maybe you think of somebody that they're a good match with, and that's perfectly fine.
Do you take it personally when your friend or a family member maybe chooses to work with someone else rather than initially coming to you, which I think would be almost expected for us to be like, okay, you're your family. You are, why wouldn't you want to support me?
You get a tinge of that, but being in the business as long as I have full respect for that, and I totally understand it. It's not a problem for me. There's enough business for all of us out there to grasp that and to move forward with and be successful. It's okay for your family or friends that choose to do use somebody else. It's absolutely fine.
And it's not, and I find that it's not because they don't want to work with you. It's more because they're worried about maybe you having too much confidential information and not understanding that you have to keep that confidential.
Exactly, exactly. And I think concept of understanding the industry, like you touched on, is that we are under confidentiality agreement. Anything they discuss with us is not going to go anywhere. And that's for the life of the relationship of signing that agreement with us or acknowledging that agreement, because it's more our commitment to them versus their commitment to us. And that's a huge thing right there, is that a lot of people don't understand. It's a commitment that we make to them. So that confidentiality agreement lasts forever.
Exactly. And that doesn't matter who you are. You could be my family member, my friend, no matter what. It's just, we're going to be keeping everything confidential. So, but if we don't get the business, that's okay. That's
That's okay.
okay.
That's
Yeah, we
okay.
love them just the same, right?
Yeah.
What do you attribute to your success throughout the years? You've been super successful. I know you've mentioned referrals. Is it luck? Is it doing incredible business, offering incredible service? What is it that makes you so successful as an agent?
I think it's got a lot to do with consistency, stability, dedication, and relationships, building those relationships.
I think you hit the nail right there with relationships. Absolutely. And developing trust.
Trust is a huge one.
What is the most misunderstood thing about realtors out in the public?
We make too much money.
I know, right? We don't work enough and we make too much money, right? You've been in the business a really long time. What is the most and least favorite thing about the business?
One of the most favorite things definitely is making people's dreams come true. Time in and time out. It's always that for me. The least favorite thing would be time management and having personal time for yourself. I end up, as much as I try to block it out and put it down as an appointment and everything else, I'd still end up dedicating a majority of my time to my business.
Yeah, I know, because you work on your vacation.
So yeah, time management.
That's hard. That's hard
That's
for
hard.
sure.
It's hard because you get reeled in really easily when you love your job. You get reeled in really easily.
You love your job and it's that care for people. So
Yes.
you almost want to be there, but then
Yes.
you're like, wait a minute, I need self-care. I need to make sure that I still have time for my family, my friends, that they get me, not a
Yes.
part of me. So I do feel like we give so much of our time,
Mhm.
so much of our energy, and then when we get home, we're exhausted. So it is
Exactly.
about trying to kind of figure that out, right? And that's going back to that balance that we talked about.
Yes, absolutely.
36 years. So we're going to 1989, 1990. So you've been through the 90s, 2000s. How has real estate, the business, selling homes, clients, how clients communicate, how has that changed from then throughout the years until now?
So real estate has really evolved in the sense of not only making sure that we are educated and staying on the cutting edge of the change in the way things are evolving. The amount of knowledge has increased from the basic, how it started for me anyways, years ago, to how much we need to know and how much we need to also consistently be educating ourselves to stay on the cutting edge, as well as our clients have also evolved. They're also much more knowledgeable. So we need to be able to connect in the level of them understanding what is done on our part, making sure that they know what is involved in the amount of legalities when it comes to real estate as well.
So that has
And
changed and evolved as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Even the amount of paper that we're going through now on what they're signing as far as a listing agreement or doing a contract of purchase and sale when they're buying. So there's so much more that we need to be informed about, educated about, and always staying on that level. Like years ago, Deanna, we didn't have to do, our 2-year updates with education and making sure that we're licensed properly every 2 years. And so that's changed drastically. And I think it's a great thing, that we are able to offer that type of service to our clients and that type of knowledge.
And be current, be more educated, be reminded of what we need to know, and just be better every single year, every single 2 years, every time we have to get relicensed. But the real estate has changed a lot. Like we're talking 90s, 2000. This is massive time difference. How has the real estate in general changed?
And the people are much more knowledgeable. So we need to be able to even offer them more knowledge, because they're coming to us with those questions, and we need to be fully aware of how to answer that. You mentioned that it's changed from the 90s to 2000 to now. It used to be a carbonized contract of purchase and sale that was the one document. We're now going through at least like 15 documents before we get to where we are ready to get going with their house for sale, for example.
And when you're talking carbonized, we're talking about the press hard, and then you rip off the top page and everybody gets a copy, and there's like 3 or 4 pages. I remember that because when I was young, I started in real estate as a receptionist actually. So I still remember those contracts. That? But also realtors were much more relied on. People didn't have the internet. They had to come to you for listings. Buyers weren't as educated to be able to go online and find listings on themselves. They were very reliant on what you can track down. Weren't there like books for hot sheets?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I remember that.
Yes. So like you said, they're also much, like I was saying, they are much more knowledgeable as well. So we need to be able to in turn also provide them even more knowledge, because there's so many things that are available online now as far as information and whatnot, but they have to understand that they are getting a level of service from us and knowledge as well, gaining more knowledge.
So why do you feel that realtors leave the business? I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it's like something like 80% of realtors leave in the first 5 years.
So we touched on that a little bit at the beginning, is how do we keep ourselves motivated and how do we keep going every day? And I think it just goes right back to that, making sure that, because we're all like lonely soldiers, right? It's a very
lonely business. And thank you for bringing that up. And because we are on our own. We have to motivate. We're self-motivated. We have to go do whatever we need to do. And it's not always easy and not always wanting to do it, but we have to do it, right?
Yes.
So what makes people leave?
Lack of income. Lack of business creates lack of income.
And we don't make all this money in the world.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? So and you really have to be in a position when you first get in the industry is to be able to sustain yourself. There's a lot of overhead in our business. We're basically self-employed and we're running our business at the same time. So there's a lot involved as far as cost is concerned. And you have to be able to sustain yourself. You have to do business to make money. And this is one of the things that people don't realize is that we do not have any income if we're not making business or if we're not doing business. Mm-hmm. But we still have our expenses to work under a real estate office.
We get paid by commissions.
That's right.
And again, like that public perception, it's like, oh, they make so much money, but people don't understand the expenses that are associated, the time that it takes to dedicate the time away from your family. And we touched on all of that before, and self-motivation and failing and getting back up to do it again.
Exactly. And there's a rule of thumb. 80% of the realtors do only 20% of the work. 20% of the realtors
of the business
do 80%. So and that really holds true even now. So we go back to what we talked about before. You have to have systems in place. You're making your own schedule, so you have to schedule yourself for things that we hate doing. Like sometimes people don't like it when somebody's knocking on the door. We don't really want to go knock on that door either. But there we are.
Yeah. And that shows how dedicated and how hardworking you are. And a lot of people aren't willing to do the difficult things. And you're either going to be 80% of the realtors doing 20% of the business, or you're going to be the 20% of realtors doing 80% of the business. And
Exactly.
that's the difficult thing. It's the discipline. To be that 20% is the discipline that you have to do that a lot of people aren't willing to do. Is that what you're kind of seeing in the business there?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Because
Now, being self employed, we don't have benefits, we don't have vacation pay, we don't have a retirement plan, no one's matching our RSPs. What do you or other realtors do to make sure they're prepared for their retirement? And what is your succession plan?
so I really recommend a financial planner in our line of work because when we receive that money, we just want to, naturally, oh my goodness, look at that money, right? So you need to figure out, save for a rainy day, how you're going to do that. What is your future goals? When are you planning to retire? How are you going to retire? How are you going to get there? So you need to draft out a really good plan. And I recommend a financial advisor.
Don't spend your whole paycheck. Save,
Mhm.
invest, and have a plan for when you're ready to retire, because no one's saving you. Like this
Yeah.
is it. Realtors don't have anybody. They're not working for someone, right? There's no plan for them later on. And what about you? What is your succession plan? I know your son is in the business now.
Yeah, so my son is in the business, and I love seeing it all over again, how he started and where he's going to. And we talk about retiring. I mentioned the word retiring, and I think this is a very difficult business to retire from when you're enjoying
Yeah.
it so much. And what's beautiful about it is even if I'm going to call it an exit program, you can always be involved in real estate even if you're getting into your golden years, that you can still stay connected with people and work on it, even if you had to do it more on a part-time basis.
Yeah, just slow things down and still be able
So
to help and do what you can for your clients and your friends, right?
yes, it's you get to make the business. You get to decide how much you want to do, how involved you want to do. If you want to be running through those gates and doing it 100%, then you do it 100%. You want to be semi-retired and still touch on being connected with some clients, then you can still do that too.
And do you think with AI and how things are moving forward with technology and buyers being so informed and they're having information right at their fingertips, and with everything that's happening and technology is moving so fast ahead and it's advancing, do you think realtors will be obsolete in the near future?
I don't believe so. Just as everything is moving along and evolving, the realtors are evolving as well.
And I think, like you mentioned before, the contracts are getting longer. Things are getting more complex.
I think even the general public is sometimes unaware of what is really involved in putting a transaction together. So when you sit down through a process of maybe selling a property or listing a property, I'll use those two examples. When you sit down and you start going through some of the paperwork and what is involved, the legal aspect of it, the liability that's involved, they actually start to really appreciate you through that process and see how needed you are as well.
I feel like that too. I think that there is just such a need for that in person, and being available and getting the knowledge that we require on a
Hmm.
regular basis. And like you mentioned, our contracts are extremely long. We're getting into more disclosures, more accountability. There's an emissions,
Hmm.
insurances, and all these different things. So, but you think about, is AI going to replace us one day? But I think if we all keep offering value and that human connection and the relationship that you keep talking about, I think we'll be okay.
I hope
That's so
so.
awesome. So just to wrap things up, I do have some friends that are getting into the business. What is some of the advice you would give a brand new realtor getting into the business and passing on to the next generation of realtors? What's some of the advice you would give?
Oh, have a good savings when you get into the business. There's lots of expenses. Get into a mentorship program if you can with somebody that's experienced, because there's so much coming through the gates after you've passed it. And that's the same that it was years ago. You passed the test, but what's the hands-on? How are you going to get those systems in place? How are you going to get out there to connect with people? That's not taught in the textbook, unfortunately. So the real life roles are really, really important on how you're going to move forward. So mentor program if you can. Get systems in place. Go out and meet as many people as you can in the industry. Have coffee with people. Talk to them about their experiences, just like what we're doing right now. Start with a brokerage that offers training. Hands on.
Absolutely. Well, Regina, thank you so much for your knowledge, your expertise. It's always great to see it from that angle, from how realtors operate, what they do, and just their life in the day of being a realtor. And of course, if anybody needs a realtor on the West Coast, I'm going to make sure to put your contact information here readily available so they can get in touch with you for your expert advice.
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you for taking me on today and being so new at this. I hope everything was okay.
Oh, you did awesome. I so appreciate you and your time. I know how busy you are. I so appreciate your time.
Have a great
Awesome.
day, and thank you once again.